Hello, Switch Crew. Welcome to the channel. She said she'd have it after I said hello.
I just never know what to expect, what's going to roll out of your mouth.
Yeah, that's what you said.
One thing that's about our channel is you never know what kind of topics you're going to get when you pop on our channel.
Yes.
It could be RV, it could be travel, it could be life, it could be relationships. What are we going to talk about today, Todd?
This will be hands down the most controversial and difficult video that I think we're going to make. I've been putting this video off for a while, and then I wanted to do it, and then she was like, why don't we just wait? And here we are. We're going to do it.
Well,
are you excited?
No.
No.
I don't like
So,
controversial.
if you are new to this channel, we do RV lifestyle, and we do switch it up. We do a lot of fun, crazy things. You can watch our other videos and get some really good laughs. This video, this is the first video that you're going to watch from us, I suggest maybe going back to watch some of our other videos to get to know us first, because this is going to dive a little deep. And she knows it. This is a tough one. So, this video is titled, Voices in My Head.
How about we roll the intro?
Yeah, let's roll the intro.
A man and a woman left their home to switch things up and go on the road. They didn't know where they would go, but it's gotta be better than staying home. They switched it up. They switched it up.
And we're back! It's like The Price is Right.
I don't think they say that on The Price is
Kinda
Right.
in a way. Okay, so voices in my head. Robert had sent a message today talking about fear, and that fear led me to thinking back to this video, and we were thinking about how we were going to come up with something, and tonight just seemed like the one way we could bring value and bring a little deeper, because I think not just myself, I think other people will need to hear this as well.
Yes, so this comes from Todd has a lot of anxiety issues when we talk about doing different things. So yes, I give him a hard time when we run into tree crabs, or when we're, when he doesn't know what to expect, when he doesn't know what's coming around the corner.
I need my security pillow.
But I didn't realize, if you're not somebody that struggles with anxiety, then you don't realize the magnitude of the conversations that you have on a daily to get us to be here. We wouldn't be in the RV and on our journey now if you wouldn't push through and push past your anxiety.
True.
And so I think it's there. You're going to talk to lots of people probably that have anxiety and kind of maybe can relate with you. But then there's probably a lot of you that are like me, and it's like, it's not something that I've ever really dealt with. And so we need to learn how to be supportive and help through that.
There's other things that we're going to have commonality in too. But since we're starting the second leg of the journey, all of those things come bubbling back up. And I was saying when we were driving out here, I was like, it feels like we got into a rhythm after some time, and then from that we got out of rhythm when we were back in Kansas City, and now we're trying to get back in rhythm traveling again. And so fighting through some of those things is kind of a commonality, I guess you would say.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by commonality.
Well, commonality for me would be my common everyday. If I get into a routine and everything's just normal, like we were living not in the same place, we were down south when we were in Kansas City, but the same environment. I mean, I knew those streets. I grew up on those streets. So even though we weren't in the same living, we were at Hillsdale Lake and we were driving, it was common. So there was now this, nothing. Tomorrow we have ideas of what we're going to do and where we're going to do or what we're going to shoot a video on, but we have no idea what switching it up tomorrow is going to look like.
But that doesn't bother me. But you're saying it
Yes.
bothers you.
Yes.
And so I think if we just need to rewind and take back to the whole conversation of what I had no idea the things you needed to push through for us to actually even start this journey. So why don't you start there?
How about we talk about voices in my head? Okay, we all have voices in our heads. We all do. Okay, now I'm going to go deep on you a little bit. Sheila actually in our church helped me through a lot of stuff. So where I'm coming from comes from a deep part. When I grew up, there was a lot of baggage that I had growing up, but I thought the voices in my head, it was normal. Like, this is going to be really hard to say. This is because I have a fear, Robert. Remember we talked about fear. So I have a fear of how you may judge me, and that's why I love to have fun. But what's getting ready to be said is pretty deep. So bear with me to let me explain.
You got to remember that there's other people that you're going to help.
I know.
And that's what the H stands for.
We're going to build the circle of trust here. So, there was a lot of time in my life where I spent not contemplating suicide. I wouldn't say that. I would say that as I drove, give you an example, and we didn't know this until probably 2 years ago when we were having a conversation. I was like, you didn't think this? You never think this? I literally spent many years driving just down the road, and random thought would come in my head. Why don't you just turn into traffic over there and just be done? You should just do this. Just take the wheel and go. And I always laughed, because I always thought. And then we had some deep conversation from a message that happened at church. And so I just said, well, wait a minute, time out. This is something I hear a lot, I've dealt with for years. And it would go away for like 2, 3, 4 months, maybe not have those thoughts. And then again, I would never contemplate myself as severely depressed. It would just be these voices. You should do this. You should do that. You're not good enough. You think this, but you're wrong, and all these things. And so I fessed up to her one day.
Yeah, we've been married for this conversation. We've been married 25 years, and you told me that those are thoughts that you have in your head, and I think you were shocked when I said I don't hear that.
Yeah, I know.
That's not something that like.
She said she has never heard. No, I've never heard you should just take your truck and go in on. And then
no.
I asked my brother this question just like 2-3 weeks ago, and he goes, "Holy cow! I have those same. I hear that same thing." And it wasn't until we had these conversations of it is a spiritual attack. Let's just say it like it is. It is a. We all can go watch scary movies, and we can all believe in demons. And we can all believe in that by watching the scary movies. We're not going to go, hey, all this Christianese stuff on you. But the fact is, we can all agree that there's evil in the world.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And they find a way to speak, basically, and attack.
And I think once you realize what that really is, that because I think people could tell themselves, I'm just crazy. Like, I just hear this, and when you told...
I thought it was just, literally, I always thought that those are just the random thoughts that come through people's heads.
But why would that... It was so boggling to me. It was like, why would that thought ever cross your mind? Like,
yes.
That just seems so bizarre that you should just end your life. Like that.
Yeah.
Or there's all kinds of other things. Like you said, you can't do that, or you're not good enough for that.
Or you're too fat, or you're not good looking, and then she after there's a long backstory to this, and so we're giving you a good summarization. But she mentioned these things called you statements and I statements. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing is to determine how do you talk to yourself? Like when I talk to myself, I'm like, well, I should probably head out and get groceries, or I'm going to go do this now, or like all the things that I say in my head.
I should read this book today.
I should probably not
exercise.
Eat that second thing of Girl Scout cookies. I should probably not do that. I don't hear it as you should not do that. You should. I hear it as I shouldn't do that. But you were hearing things a lot as... Now, I wouldn't say that this is probably... I wouldn't say that this is not a scientific thing.
We are not certified.
Nope. We're just saying that this is what a conversation we've had between us, and it's like, I hear things, and my voice tells me, in I shouldn't do that. You were hearing you. And I think that was a distinguishing difference, because there's a spiritual warfare raging around all of us all the time, and we just don't realize that's what, I think that's a soapbox conversation for me, is I think I get so frustrated at times with just how we attack each other. There's all these different controversies about all kinds of different things, and we have really forgotten as humans who the true enemy is, and it's not each other. And anyway, these you statements, we believe that is a form of spiritual warfare where, Satan's greatest joy would be for you to end your life.
Now let's preface this is that there's a lot of people that might be watching this video, and you may share this video with somebody you feel is struggling, and I can relate. And you're saying, okay, well, I don't believe in God and the Christian thing and all that. That's fine. We have to have a commonality that Ouija boards have been sold throughout wherever, and most of us could probably say, oh my goodness, that thing moved on its own. So if you can sit there and go, if you think that thing moved on its own, then we can agree that there are forces outside of whatever you want to call it, and some of them are evil. And some
I
want
would
to
think
take
that
you out.
as people, we can agree that there's evil in the world.
No.
You can even read the headlines. If you go back and look at headlines of people that have killed people or done, just horrific things, you can. There's a lot of times when they say, "Well, why'd you do it?" They will literally say, "The voices in my head told me to."
And that is the scariest. When we have these conversations, that's the scariest thing. Because then we have this conversation of, okay, Sheila, I get it. I'm a Christian. I'm saved. I'm going to go to heaven. I know where this. So why in the world, if this is true, because I'm I come at you with like these weird thoughts, right? If this is true, then why in the world would it take so much time just to try to take me out? You should just drive into traffic and take me out. And she made a good point. And what was your point on that? Do you remember? You don't remember, but it rang in my head like...
I'm glad you remember.
Oh, it was fabulous. She said, Todd, that's true. You're a Christian. You've been baptized. You've done all the things. You know where you're going to go. But yet you can still suffer the spiritual attack. And if you go ahead and just one day in that moment of weakness, that 1 second of weakness, and you just take your truck into traffic and end it all, and we get the notification that something happened and you died, why do you think that voice wanted to take you out? Well, what's the legacy you're going to leave behind? And I use the word a lot. If that's the case, then how could I help impact our relationship? Or how could I help impact our grandchildren? Or how can I share with my children, Sheila, and like when we pour into their lives, we can't build a legacy to tell them about our faith. So to them out there, if they can take you out of the game, you no longer can play. And so therefore their motives are, let's just take them out. So I think a lot of people that have spiritual warfare, and if you're not a Christian, and you're just listening to this for the first time and you're like, oh my goodness, I hear that. When you have like a crazy thought, just stop for a second and just wonder, is that a you statement or an I statement?
Well, and I think beyond the voices of, okay, maybe you haven't had a voice try to tell you, you need to run into oncoming traffic and take yourself out. You had to push through the daily anxiety.
Yes. Like, you can't drive this. Who do you think you are? You can't. This is legit thoughts. Like, you can't drive this. Look how big this thing is. You've never driven anything like this before. It goes beyond self-doubt. It goes beyond it's like those statements come in. It's like, oh, that didn't work. Let's try this one. And then let's try this one. And then pretty soon it finds one that can work. And then it just beats it into you. Like if you feel like you're overweight, or you're not smart enough, or you can never pass those tests. You always sucked at tests. Those are the things of, and you may dismiss that, but then this other one comes in. It's like, oh, this is even a better shot. So I'm using an extreme case of thoughts that I've had. But daily, those thoughts pop up. Like, even like in our relationship. It's like, oh, you know what? We've had fights in the past. Right? And so basically, why are you married? Or, those things pop in your head. I mean, she's had thoughts like that too, right?
Well, they can understand that.
Oh, goodness sakes.
No, yeah. I
yes,
mean,
right?
but
I mean,
it comes back to you've had to work through every day, because if you didn't work through every day, I think you would have just stayed in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that it was...
I would stay and hide. I know a lot of you are going, there's no way Todd's dancing, making Sheila do these things. I would legit, because it was when I did acting in college. You're not good enough. Nobody's going to listen to you. Legit, I would probably just I would be beat down enough that I would just go into a routine. Go to work, come home, watch TV, go to work, come home, and that's where I would have been beat into. And here's the best part of this whole conversation, right? We're like 14, 15 minutes in on this. And you're like, well, that's great. Is there hope? And yeah, there is. There's a lot of hope. Because the first thing is when she first started doing this with Tim, who was our pastor in our church, and talking about these things, you're, oh gosh, this is going to be bad. Okay, so she came home and she wanted to share scripture with me. And we had already kicked down the door of being just completely 100% transparent on these thoughts. And she goes, well, let me read you what Tim read tonight and stuff, and see what you think of this. And she busts open a Bible and she starts reading it. And she goes, so what do you think of that? And the you statements popped in is like, you should just throw that Bible on the ground and basically cuss her out and told her she's an effing idiot. And I said that pretty much in so many words. And she goes, Todd, where does that come from? And I was like, normally I would just swallow that thought thinking, that's just a stupid thought. Why did I have it? But it was, all it did was solidify that I've been living with this for so long. And there was a process that we went through that really helped. And it wasn't some movie thing of an exorcism or something stupid like that. But it was a legit process. And I guess the hope I can give anyone listening to this is that I don't have that thought anymore. I don't have the thought. I can't remember the last time I ever had the thought of, you should just take your car and do that. Now I've had other thoughts, because this is a war your whole life. You can get rid of that and you can conquer that now that you know, and then there's steps you'd have to take, and I'm not certified to tell you any of that, but I can tell you there's hope. And I think the first step is recognizing that, and then the second step, if you're not a Christian, saying, well, what's the deal with this God thing? What did he say about all of this? I think that would be the next thing.
I think just that
she listens and processes, and then that gets good.
I think one, we really didn't want to do this video because there's a huge chance of huge judgment. We could lose a bazillion, or we don't have a bazillion subscribers, but we could lose a bunch of subscribers over the whole thing because you're like, you guys are crazy.
Don't shove your beliefs down my throat. I already hear it now.
Yep. And we're not here to shove our beliefs down our throat.
I want to give hope.
Your throat. We're here to say that if you struggle with something like this, if you hear things or voices tell you that you can't do something, or that you don't matter, or that you're not good enough, or that don't even think about chasing that dream because that dream is stupid. Even if that dream is, hey, I want to go travel, I want to see some things, or I want to go do this, or I want to quit my job because I want to chase after that. Like, really to just walk through and say, what is it that's holding me back? And if it's these voices that are in your head trying to cause you doubt, then maybe what you really need to listen to is to really dig into what that is.
And I think that the cool part,
it just wants to stop you.
Yeah, no matter what. She made a good point. I mean, even the YouTube channel is like, why you shouldn't do a YouTube channel. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. That's a legit, thought process that comes into play.
And we are throwing ourselves out there for judgment. And here's the thing, I'm okay with it because I know that there are people that struggle with this, and I know that you don't have to. And I know that you need to know that you do matter and that you can chase your dreams and you don't have to live your daily life in fear.
And the thing is, I don't think there is one. I have searched. I have yet to hear anyone talk about the you and the I statements. Ever. Nobody is. And when that was brought up and I was being able to filter those thoughts through that, it gave like, oh my goodness. It gave like clarity for the first time ever. Just by that one thing of you and I statements. It was fabulous, because then it was like, if it was a you statement, I knew, wait a minute, I have control over that thought. I have power over that. And that's where I think the hope comes into play. Because, and not that I'm going to touch on a really touchy subject right now. I mean, we might as well just open them all up, right? Let's just talk about suicide for a second, because that's where we went through. And so I'm going to use an example of,
Don't use names.
no, I'm not.
Okay.
You could have somebody that you're like, man, I thought they went to church and I thought they were this person, and then all of a sudden, one day something happened and they just ended it. And it wasn't, like I say before, it was just that moment of weakness that they gave into this voice that they may have been struggling, and nobody shared this information with them that they could have a filter to give them hope, to go, wait a minute, this is what I'm hearing. Instead, that voice just beat them down enough that one day they just woke up and said,
they're tired of the fight.
They're tired of the fight, and we're out. And I give you hope in that, because I think for me, I struggled for a long time. If you commit, suicide, you're going straight to hell. I don't believe it, because I'm the guy that was walking around with the stupid voices, and I believe where I'm going. If I, in a moment of weakness, what if I, decided to have some cocktails when I was younger and decided to drive, and those voices got pretty loud, and guess what? We wouldn't be sitting here talking about switch it up if something would happen in my 20s. I wouldn't have children to pour into, and we wouldn't be able to pour into the grandchildren. And so I just want you, whoever's watching this and seeing it right now, to know that there is hope, no matter what.
I say, you might hear in our videos, I say a lot, well, what's the worst that can happen? Yeah. You may think that I'm just being like nonchalant, like, oh, what's the worst that can happen? No, it's me trying to talk to Todd and saying, okay, in your anxiety, and this is for you that you're struggling with that anxiety. When you think through what is the absolute worst that can happen, okay, we go through the tree crabs and you see the tree crabs and the tree crabs fall on you. When you fall out of your kayak and you get wet. Like, really, what is the worst that can happen?
Your wife leaves you behind, backs pedals.
And that's, where you parked the truck.
I know.
So, like, what really is the worst that can happen? Because I think anxiety comes from, when you think about it, it's fear of all these things. Well, if you follow that fear all the way to the bottom, what's the worst that can happen? Like, okay, so you lose your job, you lose all your money, you lose your...
Okay.
Like, what?
That's true. That is true. And she has fears too.
Absolutely.
Yes. So she is...
I never wanted to do this.
No, you did not. And this is probably the worst video that we can share on that fear aspect. But
yes, because unfortunately, what that does, I have learned through my years, is when you share things like this and you put yourself out there, then all that does is put a giant bullseye on my back for even more attack. Yeah. Because you need to be stopped if you're going to share hope to other people.
That's true.
So it's yes. But yes, I have fears. There's all kinds of strange fears that I have at times. But I don't let them hold me captive.
No. And I'm happy to say that I've come so far.
You have.
I
think same thing. The
Self-sabotage, yeah.
first thing that you came so far is we spent 23 years together, probably even more than that, before
I
you
said
actually
anything.
even shared the thoughts that are in your head, because you were thinking why. Why didn't you share it with me?
They were normal. I thought that we all had these thoughts like this, these crazy thoughts.
So I think the first thing is just to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Just to share, get real. Sometimes I think we put on these plastic faces of everything's good and everything's wonderful in all of our life. We put on Instagram and Facebook, and we're just plastic people.
Or these, RV lifestyle channels. I mean, yeah, we're traveling these amazing places. We're seeing some things. More or less, we're in awe. But I think this world brings up relationship issues if you're going to travel together, and then these fears they you might have been carrying around for a long time, and now they're to the surface. So,
And my biggest thing would be is if you're watching this and you want to go out and do something, but you haven't yet, it could very well just be that fear that's holding you back.
yep, the you statements pop in.
Yeah, that you can't do it.
You can't do that.
You're not like Todd
Who
and
are you?
Sheila. Like,
Who are you? Really? Who are
Right.
that's.
we've droned on for 25 minutes about
know.
this topic, and
But we just wanted to give some hope, and before we start this next leg and you start seeing these amazing things and meeting these amazing people. But Robert, you said something today, and I appreciated that reach out when he talked about fear, and then that sparked this conversation we're going to do a video on. And I love talking head videos, but I think the topic is so important that I'm glad you tuned in.
Well, I think it's important also for people to see you don't know what to expect on our channel.
No, holy cow. You're like going right now, you're like, what just happened to this channel? I loved it. They were laughing, we were
And
having
now-
fun, and now they brought this in.
Yeah, and now they're really crazy people. But we're just real, sharing our life with you and our struggles, and only for the hope that it can just bring them to surface in your life, and you can say, okay, there is hope, and there's something that I can do differently. And if you reach out, if you leave a comment and you want to talk, I can send you some resources for some things just for you to dig into a little bit deeper.
And the bad part is we're helpless. I mean, really, we can offer prayer. And because, honestly, the world is so massive. And again, if you share this video with a person that needs to hear it, you just got to do that first thing, like she said, reach out and talk to somebody. And know that those you statements, if they're there, they're real.
I think if people would just be real with each other and share what you're struggling with, I think you'll find that there's other people that can, one, relate to you, and two, you'll find somebody that can help you.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you're going to subscribe, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to unsubscribe, we totally understand after this video. We are hitting the road. We're getting ready to do a lot of fun things, but we really wanted to open the doors to some real conversations.
Yeah.
So, wow. I don't even know how to end this on a high note.
Just go do all the things.
Yes, do all the things.
And we do appreciate you hanging in there with us on such a deep topic. But Todd isn't all crazy and fun and out there. There is a lot more to Todd than people think.
I don't know. The wigs and dancing were pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's...
You did so good.
yeah. I hope to never do that again.
All right.
All right.
Thanks so much. And we are out.
Out.